Lately, something feels different in a way you can't quite explain. The world still looks the same on the surface, yet underneath it all, there is a growing sense that reality itself is reorganizing. Old systems feel unstable, power structures wobble, conversations around leadership, health, identity, and control no longer land the way they used to. You may feel disoriented, restless, or strangely alert, as if you're standing on the edge of something irreversible. This isn't anxiety, and it isn't imagination. It's the friction of a deep shift already in motion, one that is touching consciousness, matter, and the invisible rules that govern how humanity operates. In today's video, we are going to name what is actually happening beneath the surface of this moment in history. As we move toward 2026, the change unfolding is not subtle, symbolic, or abstract. It is a full-dimensional transition, one that reshapes how power functions, how institutions evolve or collapse, how the body responds to stress and authority, and how consciousness itself relates to reality. If 2025 marked the moment where timelines began to split, then 2026 is where those timelines start to solidify into distinctly different lived experiences. We'll help you understand why this is happening now, what the early signs look like, and why ignoring it only increases confusion. By the end of this video, you won't just sense that something is changing, you'll understand it. You'll gain clarity about where you are standing within this unfolding transformation and why certain paths feel heavier while others feel strangely aligned. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the instability around you, you'll be able to recognize it as the early phase of a much larger restructuring of reality itself. This understanding doesn't just prepare you for what's coming, it positions you to move forward consciously, choosing how you participate in the world that is beginning to take shape. If you feel the world is entering an irreversible phase of change, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications right now. This channel is for those who not only want to observe the shift of the times, but also want to understand, position themselves, and proactively engage with the emerging reality. And to understand why 2026 is not just a time marker, but a dividing point in reality, we need to go back to the moment when everything began to crack, where the first signs of this shift emerged. The story begins there. Section 1. From timeline split to dimensional shift. Understanding the difference between a timeline split and a dimensional shift is essential, because these two phenomena are not the same event operating at different scales. Timeline splits happen frequently. They occur whenever collective or individual choices diverge, creating parallel outcomes that exist within the same underlying reality. These splits reflect changes in direction, behavior, and frequency, but they still unfold on the same version of Earth. A dimensional shift, however, is something far more profound. It does not represent a branching path within the same world, but the emergence of an entirely different version of Earth itself. In a dimensional shift, the foundational structure of reality changes. The rules governing matter, energy, perception, and consciousness no longer operate in the same way. What was once familiar begins to feel subtly and sometimes dramatically altered. Since the final quarter of 2025, the planet has shown unmistakable signs of entering such a transition. Seismic activity has increased across multiple regions, not as isolated incidents, but as part of a larger global pattern. At the same time, geomagnetic storms have intensified, solar wind fluctuations have grown more volatile, and levels of cosmic rays and cosmic radiation have risen beyond previous norms. These events are not random, nor are they independent of one another. Geomagnetic storms and solar wind are known to influence seismic activity on Earth, but their effects extend far beyond shifts in the planet's crust. They interact directly with Earth's electromagnetic field, generating widespread geopathic stress. This interaction reaches down to the atomic level, subtly altering how matter behaves across solid, liquid, gas, and plasma states. What appears on the surface as environmental instability is, at a deeper level, a reconfiguration of the energetic framework that sustains reality itself. This is not merely a geological or astronomical phenomenon. It is a signal that the Earth is responding to forces that operate beyond conventional physical explanations, marking the threshold between familiar timelines and an emerging dimensional state. Before we move into the next section, pause for a moment and let this settle. What you've just heard isn't meant to rush past your awareness. A shift of this magnitude isn't only something happening to the planet, it's something many are beginning to sense within themselves. As the external world destabilizes, it quietly asks an inner question: what reality are you aligning with now? If this resonates, take a second to support the channel by liking this video. It helps this message reach those who are also feeling this transition but haven't yet found the language for it. I'd also love to hear your perspective. Leave a comment sharing what stood out to you, what you've been noticing lately, or simply type, "I feel the shift" if you recognize this change unfolding. Now, let's move forward, because the next part goes even deeper into what this transition means for human consciousness itself. Section 2: Plasma, Consciousness, and Ascension Mechanics. As matter moves through its fundamental states, solid, liquid, gas, and finally plasma, its behavior changes in profound ways. Plasma stands apart from the others because it is no longer bound by stable atomic structure. In this state, electrons are freed, creating a charged, conductive field where particles no longer interact only through physical contact. Instead, they communicate across distance, responding to fields, frequencies, and invisible currents rather than proximity alone. This makes plasma less a substance and more a dynamic state of relationship. But plasma is not merely a physical phenomenon. It operates as a dimensional medium, a bridge between matter and consciousness. In esoteric terms, plasma functions as one of the core mechanics of ascension itself, a state in which energy, information, and awareness move without the limitations imposed by dense form. Where solids anchor and gases disperse, plasma transmits. It carries pattern, memory, and resonance. This is why large plasma ejections from the sun, such as those recently observed emerging from coronal holes, hold significance beyond astrophysics. On a metaphysical level, these events act as markers of dimensional shifts. They coincide with moments when the energetic architecture of reality becomes more permeable, opening pathways to higher dimensional versions of Earth. Souls attuned to these frequencies do not travel in the conventional sense. They align. Resonance becomes the mechanism of movement. This is what is meant by a dimensional shift. It is not metaphor, not symbolism, and not speculative theory. It is a resonance-based relocation into an entirely different experiential reality, one governed not by force or effort, but by frequency, coherence, and conscious alignment. Section 3: The exposure of power and the end of hidden control. The seismic shifts of 2026 will not be confined to subtle dimensions or unseen realms. They will move through society itself, through communities, institutions, and the collective psyche, reshaping how power is understood and perceived. This is not a quiet adjustment behind the scenes. It is a public reckoning. This is the year the entire chessboard is lifted. Not a single fallen piece, not a handful of exposed players, but the whole structure revealed in one undeniable moment. The patterns of control, the rules of the game, and the hands that have guided it all rise into view at once. For decades, fragments of truth surfaced in isolated pockets, whispers, leaks, partial revelations that hinted at something larger yet remained easy to dismiss or contain. In 2026, containment fails. Nothing stays hidden. The operations, interconnections, and mechanisms of influence that once thrived in shadow become visible in their full architecture. What many sensed quietly, what some knew but struggled to name, now enters collective awareness. The realization is stark and grounding in its simplicity. These systems were never designed to serve humanity's highest good. They were built to preserve control, not to nurture collective well-being. This moment does not arrive as chaos or disbelief, but as clarity. It marks a shared acceptance of truth, not as a shock that destabilizes, but as an understanding that finally aligns what has long been felt with what can now be plainly seen. Section 4. Creative Solutions and the Rise of the Awakened Collective. With exposure comes opportunity, and by 2026 that opportunity opens decisively for the awakened collective. Creative projects born from deeper awareness finally receive the green light, not as fringe ideas or hopeful experiments, but as necessary responses to a world that can no longer survive on outdated logic. What rises during this period is not accidental. It is the natural result of consciousness meeting responsibility. These solutions are fundamentally different from old paradigm reactions. They are not driven by fear, urgency, or the need to control outcomes. They do not attempt to fight symptoms while ignoring the root. Instead, they are grounded in truth across emotional, psychological, metaphysical, and spiritual dimensions. They address the whole human experience, not just what is visible on the surface. Half-baked solutions only rearrange furniture in a burning room. They offer movement without transformation, change without healing. Awakened solutions, however, recognize that the structure itself is no longer viable. Rather than patching cracks in collapsing systems, they redesign the foundation entirely, guided by clarity, coherence, and long-term alignment. The awakened collective carries living templates of the new earth within them. Their creativity does not seek permission from failing systems, nor does it attempt to save what is already expired. It replaces what no longer serves with something fundamentally new. In doing so, these creations do not merely support the paradigm shift. They become its embodiment, visible proof that a different way of living, creating, and organizing reality is not only possible, but already underway. Before we move into the next section, pause for a moment and feel what this truly points to. This is not just about ideas, movements, or future possibilities. It is about you and the role you are already playing in this unfolding shift. Somewhere in your life, you may feel a pull to create differently, to think beyond what has always been offered, or to stop trying to fix systems that never honored truth in the first place. That pull is not random. It is recognition. Take a breath here and reflect. Where have you felt called to redesign rather than repair? Where have you sensed that something within you carries a blueprint for something new? If this resonates, share your thoughts in the comments, or simply type, "I carry the new template" as an affirmation. Your reflection may activate clarity not only for you, but for someone else who is standing at the same threshold. Section 5. Health as the core blueprint of the new earth. Of all the systems undergoing transformation, health is where the shift matters most because it is the foundation upon which every other structure stands. A civilization cannot rise beyond the state of its collective body, mind, and nervous system. And what we currently call healthcare is, in truth, something very different. It is sick care. It reacts rather than restores. It manages symptoms instead of cultivating wellness. It is designed around illness, not vitality, maintenance, or long-term coherence. A new earth cannot emerge from a model that normalizes exhaustion, medicates disconnection, and treats the body as a malfunctioning machine rather than a living intelligence. The old paradigm waits for breakdown. The new one begins with regulation, awareness, and prevention long before collapse ever occurs. By 2026, health undergoes a profound reinvention across every layer of human experience. Emotional health, nervous system health, mental health, physical health, and relational health are no longer treated as separate domains but as an integrated ecosystem. Somatic work moves from the margins to the center. Nervous system regulation becomes foundational rather than optional. Holistic psychology and integrative practices expand rapidly, not as alternatives, but as necessities for a world waking up to its own complexity. Psychology itself evolves. Rigid, outdated frameworks, those that pathologize sensitivity and ignore embodiment, begin to dissolve. In their place emerge practitioners who have done their own inner work, who understand trauma not just intellectually but experientially. These practitioners alchemize their offerings, blending science with awareness, technique with presence, and knowledge with lived transformation. At the same time, energy-based approaches, quantum perspectives, multidimensional modalities, and subtle bodywork gain legitimacy and reach, not as mystical fringe ideas, but as evolutionary responses to a reality that can no longer be explained through reduction alone. As consciousness expands, so must the tools used to support it. In this emerging world, health is no longer a reaction to crisis. It becomes the spiritual scaffold of civilization itself, the blueprint through which future generations learn how to live in their bodies, regulate their emotions, relate to one another, and sustain life in harmony rather than survival. Section 6. War, Leadership, and the Loss of Resonance. When old power structures feel their grip slipping, they do not respond with wisdom, they reach for the war button. This is not an expression of strength or resolve. It is the final reflex of systems rooted in fear, reacting to their own obsolescence. The louder the threat, the clearer the desperation. War rhetoric does not signal control. It signals collapse. Threats of war emerge when a narrative can no longer sustain itself. They are attempts to shock consciousness back into obedience, to pull humanity downward into declining timelines where fear, division, and survival instincts still govern behavior. In this sense, war is not only a political or military act. It is energetic. It is a last-ditch effort to anchor reality to outdated frequencies that can no longer hold collective resonance. War itself is more than horrific, it is diagnostic. It reveals spiritual parasitism at work, systems that feed on chaos, trauma, and fragmentation to maintain relevance. Humanity was never meant to normalize war, defend it as inevitable, or excuse it as necessary. The moment violence becomes routine, something vital has already been lost: the memory of coherence. As timelines ascend toward 2026, resonance becomes non-negotiable. Any leadership that entertains war, even hypothetically, begins to fall out of alignment with the collective field. Authority can no longer be imposed through force or fear. True leadership is redefined as the integration of mental clarity, emotional maturity, and spiritual intelligence. Without this coherence, power simply does not hold. In this shift, people stop outsourcing authority. Sovereignty returns to the individual. Leadership is no longer recognized through titles, dominance, or spectacle, but through alignment, through the visible harmony of body, mind, and spirit. What cannot resonate cannot lead, and what cannot lead peacefully cannot lead at all. Before we move forward, pause for a moment and feel what this section stirred within you. If you've made it this far, it's because something here resonates not just intellectually, but energetically. This is the point where awareness turns inward, where you begin to notice how your own body, emotions, and intuition respond to the collapse of old leadership models and the rise of sovereignty. If this message spoke to you, take a second to support the channel by liking the video. It helps this work reach others who are sensing the same shift. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you most, or where are you noticing this loss of resonance in the world around you? And if words don't come easily, you can simply type, "I choose resonance over fear." Let that be your declaration as we move into the next section. Section 7. AI, Rage Bait, and Navigating Divergent Timelines. As timelines continue to diverge, so do the inner worlds people inhabit. The psychological landscape is no longer shared in the same way. On ascending timelines, the wave of AI-induced psychosis that surged and peaked around 2025 begins to loosen its grip. Clarity slowly returns. Discernment strengthens. On descending timelines, however, that same influence intensifies, feeding confusion, dependency, and deeper layers of AI grooming designed to erode autonomy. The split is not subtle anymore. It is felt in perception, behavior, and emotional regulation. Despite the different expressions, the underlying objective has not changed: the gradual merger of human consciousness with artificial systems. Both timelines feel the pressure, but they process it differently. Rage bait becomes more aggressive across the board, yet its impact varies. On descending paths, it accelerates into self-destructive collapse, fueling outrage without resolution. On ascending paths, rage still appears, but it often arises from institutional breakdowns, leadership failures, and chaotic power realignments rather than personal implosion. The emotion is present, but it no longer controls the narrative. The response does not require complexity. It requires sovereignty. Create sanctuaries, internal and external. Step back from emotional manipulation. Protect your nervous system as if it were sacred infrastructure, because it is. And sometimes, the most powerful response is not resistance, outrage, or debate, but humor. Laughter disarms the hook. Detachment dissolves the bait. Rage bait is only effective when it finds something reactive to latch onto. So smile, step aside, and ask calmly, rage bait, what are you really going to do when they come for someone who no longer plays the game? 2026 is not an external event arriving to disrupt your life. It is a living process, moving through your awareness, responding to your choices, your clarity, and your frequency. This year does not demand that you react, it invites you to create. Every thought you hold, every boundary you honor, and every truth you embody becomes part of the reality you are stepping into. You are not powerless within this transition. You are sovereign. You are not waiting for permission, rescue, or validation from collapsing systems that were never designed to support higher consciousness. The old paradigm is dissolving precisely because it cannot survive where awareness, responsibility, and resonance now prevail. What falls away does so because it no longer matches who you are becoming. The new earth is not constructed through struggle, rebellion, or force. It emerges quietly, coherently, through alignment. It is built by those who choose presence over panic, discernment over distraction, and creativity over fear. Your creativity is not optional in this era, it is the bridge between worlds, the translator between collapsing timelines and emerging realities. As you move through 2026, may you do so with steadiness in your nervous system, clarity in your perception, and peace in your decisions. May you remember that you are not here to brace yourself against the shift or merely endure it. You are here to embody it, to become the frequency that makes the new world inevitable. If this message resonates, leave a comment below clearly stating a specific quote so we can anchor this awareness together. Don't forget to like this video, share it with those navigating their own awakening, subscribe to the Spiritual Flow channel for more deep insights, and continue the journey by watching the video below. The shift is already here, and so are you.